Welcome to the White Lead Knowledge Skill, Defensive Lead Handling. Defensive lead handling is a set of habits and attitudes designed to keep the handler safe. Defensive lead handling also allows you to better control your dog in emergency situations. Defensive lead handling is not a special type of handling that you use only in certain situations. It's about changing the whole way you approach the lead in a very fundamental way. Remember that dogs have minds and instincts that need to be managed to the best of our abilities. By doing this, we can keep ourselves, our dogs, and the people around us safe. At the end of this video, you should be able to answer the following questions. You should be able to demonstrate how to hold a lead and how not to hold a lead. You should be able to answer what is opposition reflex and provide examples. You should be able to demonstrate a wrist lock and a hip lock. Show where a person's center of gravity is and where a dog's center of gravity. Demonstrate the power position and weak position for both handlers and dogs. And you should be able to handle a simulated lead battle with an instructor. Firstly, let's talk about the difference between a leash and a lead. A leash is a rope or similar material attached to the neck or head of an animal for restraint or control. A lead is the same piece of equipment but used to lead the animal to a destination. In this article, we will mainly be talking about using the rope as a leash, as in for control, and beginning the transformation into a lead, turning it into a device of communication rather than restraint. By the end of the lecture, I hope you will see the subtle difference here and the effect it will have on you and your dog's behavior. Equipment. There are many choices of equipment for both lead and collar. Selecting the correct ones are very important to your safety and success in training your dog. Let's start with leads. There are two main factors which govern the choice of a lead. The first is safety. You don't want a lead so long that your dog can wander anywhere. This mostly applies to your dog's safety, but also the people and dogs around you. That's one reason retractable leads are never an option. On the other hand, you don't want a lead so short that your dog can never be on a loose lead. Your dog needs to be able to have a loose lead in order to learn to walk on a loose lead. If they're constantly hitting the end of the line because it's too short, then they will never learn to walk on a loose leash. A 4-foot lead may seem like a good option for control, but it only means that your dog will be accustomed to pulling on a leash. A 6-foot lead is a solid choice. If you have more space or are hiking, a 10-foot leash is also a good choice when legal. Don't forget that you actually have more leverage when you're further away from your dog, but you trade control. Now let's talk about collars. I will also include in this section halters and harnesses. Ultimately, we want our dogs to be under control off-lead. That's why the less equipment you use, the better off you will be. However, in some situations, you will need more leverage to help you control a powerful dog. Remember, the purpose of this equipment is not to punish or hurt the dog. The purpose is to keep the handler safe and in control of the animal. Here is my hierarchy of equipment and their pros and cons. Firstly, off-lead whenever possible. When I'm at home, when I'm training in safe training areas, I allow my dog to be trained off-leash. A lot of people don't allow their dog to be off-leash in these situations, say in a training class. They're worried they will lose control of the dog. If the environment is safe enough, then you should allow the dog to express their emotions and focus on getting them interested in training with you. Of course, this is only applicable when safe, at home, at a dog training class, or when the dog is very well trained in safe legal locations. Second choice will be a regular flat collar or martingale. Martingales are also sometimes called limited slip. This is the ideal setup for any time you can't let your dog off lead. This allows for the dog to make good choices without being forced. The flat collar or martingale doesn't give you a significant advantage over a large, powerful dog, but it does allow you to communicate using the lead for a dog that's decently trained. My third choice is the head halter. For dogs that are very powerful, a head halter gives you all of the control. It's like, I've heard some trainers call it power steering for a dog. These are not good for training. They are strictly a management tool. And one of their big disadvantages is you have to spend a lot of time conditioning the dog to wear it. So you can't just pop one on your dog and go for a walk. This is a project, and it's a worthwhile project for many dogs. My fourth choice will be a prong collar. Some dogs are not mentally prepared to accept a halter, and this is something that should be remedied in training. But while you are desensitizing your dog to a halter, you still need to walk them, and a prong collar can allow you to do that with some control. The biggest problem with a prong collar is that if the dog is too aroused, then it will pull through the pressure. The pressure that's being caused by the collar won't have any effect. They physically can't do that with a halter. There's just no way for them to do that. That's why horse trainers train horses on halters and not prong collars. Really, prong collars should only be used as a refinement tool for advanced leash work, to train both the handler and dog to be more sensitive. That's why it's my fourth option and not my third. Number 5 is the front clip harness. These can be useful. The reason I don't really like them is that I like to have control of my dog's head. If the dog's aggressive, then I need to be able to turn its head quickly towards me. That's where a head halter or even a prong, in my mind, can be preferable to a front clip harness. Also, some dogs learn to beat the harnesses and can still pull on them, so these tools don't work for all dogs. My sixth option is a regular harness. In my opinion, harnesses should only be used for 4 things: carting, sledding, tracking, and agitation. So basically, they should be used when the dog is not only allowed to pull, but encouraged to pull. They do encourage the dog to pull. They're designed to allow the dog to pull and not injure themselves. That is why they're called harnesses. Lastly, we'll talk about choke chains. Never use a choke chain. Choke chains are designed to cut off a dog's airway as a punishment. They do not give you any particular advantage over the dog's strength, and most dogs just learn to pull through them. They are really bad for your dog's neck and spine as well. Because of these reasons, other options are always better. I've never encountered a situation where a choke chain was an advantage over a prong, a head halter, or a front clip harness. So if you are thinking about using one, really consider why you're thinking about using one and if there's a better option for the choice. How to hold a lead. Holding a lead for defensive lead handling is designed to keep the handler safe. The first thing to do is to break some bad habits. Never slip the lead over your wrist or wrap it around your hand, especially with a strong dog. Using the lead improperly like this will put you at risk of shattering some bones in your wrist if the dog takes off fast or pulls you at the wrong angle. Secondly, you are trapped and have no ability to escape. Here's a concept that is a little counterintuitive. Wearing a lead like this reveals your surrender to acceptance of your dog's pulling habit. You will find it very hard to make progress if your basic thought expects your dog to do it wrong. You need to give the dog some responsibility to not pull the lead for them to learn. Tying your dog to your hand basically accepts that your dog will pull you, and you won't make any progress training that way. Don't let your guard down when you're holding a dog's lead. When you are attached to the dog by a lead, you are that dog's guardian. Your dog's safety is in your hands. If something catches you off guard, it is your responsibility. If you go around a corner and there is a squirrel, car, child, or another dog, and you don't have the ability to respond instantly, it is your responsibility. Don't pull the lead. Remain calm. I start many loose leash walking lessons by instructing the handler not to pull. Often the dog doesn't have nearly as bad a habit as the handler. Before they even take the first step, their shoulder and elbow are tense and locked. The dog has even started moving. That isn't to say that you have to go anywhere the dog goes. If you tie a dog to a tree, does the tree pull a dog? Be a tree. Don't pull. Just stop. If you're walking away from the dog and the lead gets tight, don't pull. Just go. Stay relaxed and go. Now, on to holding the lead correctly. First, lay the lead in your hand. This is the basic way to hold the lead. You can make a fist around it if you need to, but be relaxed. Feel the give and take of the lead as your dog comes and goes and stops. Have the lead short enough that the lead doesn't get tangled, but not so short that the dog never learns to walk on a loose lead. If the dog is constantly being tugged, his opposition reflex will constantly be triggered. More on that in a second. Breathe regularly, Remind yourself to relax, shoulder, elbow, wrist. If you do this right, your dog should immediately relax. He may even yawn or lay down. The right length to give the lead, in my opinion, is so that it bends underneath just to the dog's, just above the dog's elbow. So it shouldn't be a straight line from your hand to the collar. It should have a bend in it down to right above the dog's elbow. So it's not so long that the dog could step over it easily, but it's not so short that it's tight. Opposition reflex. Opposition reflex is an instinct that many animals have to push or pull against pressure. There is a reason humans tense up as soon as they pick up a lead, as well as why dogs pull. We can often use this to our advantage in training, but more often than not, it works against us because we are unaware of its effect on both the dog and the person. Remember that anytime the dog feels pressure, its instinct will be to pull directly against that pressure, and if it works, in this case meaning the pressure stops, it will try harder next time, and harder the next time after that. Make sure that if you ever put pressure on the lead, you are in a position to not reinforce opposition reflex. And don't hold it against your dog. This is a natural reflex that has led to their survival in the wild. If a predator catches you in your jaws and you don't fight against that predator, you're not likely to survive. So keep that in mind when your dog pulls, that they're just doing something reflexively. Rowboat. Here's your first exercise. Stand still with your dog by you on lead. As soon as your dog goes ahead of you or pulls on lead, if they don't, take a step forward until they do. Relax, inhale, and pull back like you are rowing a boat. As soon as your hands reach your shoulders, exhale and drop your hands to your sides. Repeat as necessary. Physics. When you are looking to control a dog on lead, you need to be aware of physics. You are most stable at your center of gravity. Your center of gravity is about 2 inches below your belly button, just in front of your spine. This point is known as the dantian in martial arts, and is going to be important for learning how to use physics to your advantage. Your dog is also most stable at their center of gravity, which is just behind the elbows, depending on breed, of course. If you want to have the most stability, then hold your lead tight to your center of gravity. Don't allow your arms to be extended. In order to put something off balance, you want to get below their center of gravity and knock them to one side. Watch or take wrestling, judo, or jiu-jitsu lesson to see this in action. Power positions. Put your hands against a wall or other solid object and try to push it over. Now look at the position of your legs. In order to have the most power, you spread your legs, which lowers your center of gravity. You probably also offset your feet by 1 or 2 feet forward. This is your basic power position. The biggest difference between this and what you will do with your dog is that you'll be leaning back. Be careful not to set yourself so far back that if the dog releases pressure from the lead, you fall backwards. Now put your feet 1 foot in front of the other and have someone push you from the side. This is one of the weakest positions you could find yourself in. Practice taking a power position suddenly from as many positions as possible. Now imagine a dog pulling a sled. This is a dog's power position. The line going straight down the dog's back, pulling directly against the dog's forward motion. This is where the dog is the strongest. If we were to try to make the dog weak, we would need to get ahead of that dog's center and pull to the side. If you take your lead 90 degrees out to the side of the dog and pull them, it will be very hard for the dog to maintain balance. They will need to cross one leg over the other in order to catch themselves from falling. In that moment, you have control of your dog. Leash locks. If you need to make sure that the lead does not slip from your hands, then you need a lead lock. There are 2 basic ones I use. The finger lock. Hold the lead normally. Loop your lead over your pointer finger and run it down the back of your palm. Make a fist. This is a very powerful lock, and the dog won't be able to pull that from you. If you have a very powerful dog, you may want to wear gloves. Hip lock. Run the lead behind your back around your center of gravity and sit back into it. Hold the lead in both hands. Leash etiquette in public. In public, it is your responsibility to know where your dog is and what they are doing. So first off, keep your dog on leash. Even if they are well trained, even if they are friendly, whatever the excuse is, it isn't a good enough one. Unless you are in a legally off-leash area, keep them on leash. Do not let your dog approach other people or dogs without their permission. Do not allow your dog to approach other dogs on leash ever. If you want to introduce your dogs to other dogs, set up a play date in a safe off-leash area. There is no accepted safe distance to keep from other dogs when on lead, but far enough that they can't reach if both dogs were at the end of their lead is smart. Make sure you are aware of other people and dogs' needs in terms of space. Keep your dog close to you, and if you're going to stop and talk or text someone, ask your dog to lie down or sit while you do so. Now that you have finished this video, take the defensive leash handling test and see if you pass the skill.